Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mark Moss Show, where we talk about the decentralized revolution. Of course, I try to bring to you, some big ideas to help you kind of think through things a little bit differently so you can understand what's going on in the world today. Some of the latest breaking news headlines so you see what's happening in real time. And of course, some very interesting guests. And we have all of that going on. And right now, I have some of the biggest headlines of the week. Now, if you're watching this, instead of just listening, you can listen on the radio. Of course, you can catch it on the podcast. Your favorite podcast player, just search Mark Moss Show. You can also watch this on the Market Disruptors YouTube channel. You might notice I'm wearing this sweatshirt with the skull and crossbones, and it's from a soccer team, a football team out of London. The real Bedford. My friend Peter McCormick bought the team, and he's trying to make a run in the football league over there. So anyway, supporting him. If you're wondering what this sweatshirt is, shout out to Peter and the real Bedford over there. Good luck to you. But anyway, back to some of the biggest breaking news. And of course, in this cryptocurrency space, Bitcoin space, financial space, whatever you want to call it, some of the biggest news going around the world and all of finance, mainstream, et cetera, is, of course, the collapse of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. It started with, Celsius, or really Terra Luna and Celsius and Theros Capital, all the way now, of course, to Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. And that saga, man, just like when it seems like it couldn't go any deeper, it just continues to get deeper. But, I've been keeping you up on a couple of these things because it's important to understand if you're affected by this. And even if you're not affected, there's still a lesson to learn. Now, I just did a video on my YouTube channel, Mark Moss YouTube channel, talking about the money in your bank is at risk. It's not protected like you think it is. And what's happening in the cryptocurrency space helps us to understand it. What's happening in the cryptocurrency space, what happened with FTX and Celsius, is a small little microcosm that's easy for us to kind of get our head around and understand. And it helps us to understand what's going on in the bigger world. In a video I did talking about the FTX and how they use this fake token FTT and kind of create this fake value. And I explained, now that you understand that, it's very easy to understand that way. Now that you understand that, it's exactly how Japan is with their Japanese yen token. And it's even what's going to happen in the United States and the Fed with the dollar token. And so when you understand on that little level, it starts to help you understand what's happening on a bigger level. And this video I made about the money in your bank not being safe, and even if you have FDIC insurance, helps you understand if you can understand this first. So a couple things I want to talk about in regards to that is the former Celsius CEO Mashinsky was sued by New York State for defrauding investors. The state of New York Attorney General Letitia James accused him of misleading investors because he kept going on and on and on, even up to the very end about how safe it was and how everyone should give him his money. And he was defrauding hundreds of thousands of investors by making these false statements, encouraging to keep money coming in, promising him financial freedom and instead lead him to financial ruin. Anyway, good luck with that. You don't get blood out of a turnip, and I don't know, they'll sue them and they'll win, but how much money are they going to get? But more importantly, what I want to talk about is a bankruptcy judge. So Celsius assets are in bankruptcy, and a bankruptcy judge just ruled this week that customers that had money into the earn product, so you could park your cryptocurrency there and earn yield on it, or you could borrow against it. And the users that had money there went to the bankruptcy court and filed a petition, and they said, hey, that is our money. It's not their money, right? And so that should not be held up in this bankruptcy. They need to release that to us. And the bankruptcy judge said no. They said the platform customers do not own their assets. The judge, Martin Glenn, said that Celsius terms of service made it clear it took possession of crypto assets, deposited into its earned product, and that allows Celsius to retain control over the assets in its earned account, and will have ramifications for other cryptocurrency investors using similar products across other platforms. And so if you had money on Voyager or BlockFi or FTX, this matters to you, and it also matters if you have money in a bank. Because what happens is what they're saying is it's the issue of ownership. It's the issue of ownership and it's contract law. And so what happens is when you gave that to Celsius, that is no longer your money, or you gave it to BlockFi, or you gave it to whatever. It was no longer your money. So that's why the bankruptcy judge said, no, you don't get that back. Now, if you had money sitting in a wallet there, It was not in an earn account or in a borrow account. If it was in a wallet, that's something different. Potentially, they're saying that they're still going to give that back. Generally, wallet funds are treated as belonging to the users. But what does this have to do with BlockFi and FTX and even Wells Fargo or JP Morgan? Well, technically with your bank, when you give them that money, it's not your money anymore. They owe it to you. And the reason why that's important is back to contract law. So in a bankruptcy event, in an insolvency event, if your bank goes bankrupt like Celsius or like FTX did, then the assets of the bank or Coinbase or Celsius or BlockFi, whatever, go into receivership. They go into bankruptcy. And in the bankruptcy, in the receivership, they try to figure out, okay, well, who's owed what and how much money do we have and how do we divvy up? And who gets the money first and who gets the money last? And the unsecured creditors get money last, which is why no bank will give you an unsecured loan, right? And so when you give your money to the bank, it's not your money. You don't own it anymore. They owe it to you, and you're an unsecured creditor, which means you will get your money last, which is exactly what happened here. They're saying, hey, nope, you don't have the money. You gave it to the company. And so, unfortunately, if you're in one of those accounts with BlockFi or FTX or whatever, you're probably in the same boat. If it's in a wallet, you might be better off. But like I said, even if it's in a traditional bank, you have that. Now, Mark, what about FDIC? What about FDIC? Well, if you'd like to find out my thoughts on that, go check out on my main YouTube channel. Just search Mark Moss, and you'll find out what I have to say about FDIC. Now, on to FTX. Of course, Sam Bankman-Fried got arrested, finally. He's got a tough road ahead, and he went and declared not guilty, which is pretty amazing. It doesn't rule out the possibility that probably what he's doing is maybe trying to negotiate a deal, some sort of a guilty plea deal. So he said not guilty, and then the state will come back, and maybe they could try to kind of make some deal. But the other people, Caroline Ellison, who was the CEO of Alameda, the sister company, and FTX co-founder Gary Wang have already entered guilty pleas, and they have entered guilty pleas to cooperate against Sam Bankman-Fried. So it doesn't look really good. Not exactly sure what's going on. But more importantly, what I'm interested in is, of course, all of this fraud that's going on, specifically in the political realm. And what we know is that Sam Bankman-Fried kind of started FTX to give all this money to the Democratic Party. And he became this massive contributor to the Democratic Party. And what's interesting is that now they say that there's allegations of criminal violations of campaign finance laws, and they go beyond the basic fact that SBF used stolen customer funds to make these contributions. Damian Williams, the United States attorney in Manhattan, said that SBF made illegal campaign contributions totaling in the tens of millions of dollars and disguised them. He tried to hide them as they were coming from wealthy co-conspirators. Conspiracy. Yeah. In other words, SBF used these straw donors to conceal the source of these campaign contributions to evade federal laws and limits. So who are these people? And more importantly, tens of millions of dollars on top of the 40 million we already know about, which will make this the largest campaign fraud case in history. And even more interesting, we know that he was the second largest donor to the Joe Biden campaign in 2020. So how much of that 5.2 million plus other straw campaign donations went to Biden that were illegal? Oh, this is going to be interesting, and don't worry, I'm going to keep you up to date on this. The one thing that should be more abundantly clear than ever is if you don't hold it, you don't own it. With Bitcoin, we say not your keys, not your coins. If you have them on Coinbase or Celsius or BlockFi or FTX and not in your own wallet, you don't own them. And so now is the time to get them off of the exchange and put them in a hardware wallet. A hardware wallet like Trezor or Ledger or Cold Card, and you can store it yourself. I talk about, the pendulum swinging from centralization and back to decentralization. Of course, we see that we're at peak centralization with a unipolar world. The U.S. dominance, the U.S. dollar dominance, the homogeny, as it's called, and the world's now breaking apart into a multipolar world. And of course, we can see that happening all over the place. This era, this period of peace that we've known for the last, 40, 50 years is is coming to an end. I say it over and over. The world we're going into is not the same as the world that we've left behind. The last 40 or 50 years is an anomaly. When you look through thousands of years of history, the last 40 or 50 years is an anomaly. It's not the way things always are, and it's not the way things will always be. And of course, as I said, we can see that the pendulum is starting to swing back to decentralization, and this is a massive signpost. And some of this is that you can see the world is breaking apart into this multipolar world. Instead of one homogeny power that runs and controls everything, we're probably going to have multiple zones. In the beginning, it's probably going to go into like 3 zones. Eventually, I believe that we might settle with 4 or 5 different zones. And we can see it happening, and I believe 2023 is going to be a very, very big year for it. While the United States is all in with the Russia-Ukraine situation, in my opinion, the United States really trying to push hard onto Russia because they understand the threat that Russia poses into this multipolar world, using the Ukraine as this, proxy to fight this war. We have lots of other areas of conflict popping up. Taiwan, with China, we got North Korea, we have Iran, Palestine, all potential flashpoints that could potentially cause a problem in 2023. Now, like I said, we've kind of been all in on Russia, Ukraine, but, there's lots of other things going on in the world that just maybe we don't get involved in. We have, Myanmar, Yemen, Mali, Nicaragua, Republic of Congo, Somalia, Afghanistan, all types of crises going on. But there's 3 geopolitical battlegrounds that you need to keep your eye on for 2023, and this continues to show the world breaking apart. Now, what does it mean if the world breaks apart? Well, it means, again, like I said, the world will be different. How will it be different? Well, we'll have a lot less global cooperation. What does that mean? Well, that means our just-in-time supply chains don't work as good anymore. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means we don't have as many products and services, especially at good prices anymore. Okay, what does that mean? Well, that means prices go up. Okay, what does that mean? That means your quality of life goes down. You have to start thinking through these things. 3 geopolitical battlegrounds in particular may be hard to ignore. China and Asia. We have the Middle East situation, and of course, we have the Russia-Ukraine, and really the U.S.-Europe tensions as well. The U.S. and Europe are fighting. And so what's going to happen? It's happening really quick. We can see China's really, really ramping up its military efforts and putting kind of a display to Taiwan. And at the same time, we see Japan starting to shift. And we see Japan has now shifted, it's changed since about 1945. After World War II, it moved into like this pacifist transition, and now Japan has decided to double its defense spending, taking it from, I believe, 9th in the world in defense spending all the way up to number 3 in defense spending. So Japan's getting ready for something. Like what are they getting ready for? We can see that, like I said, China is really aggressively building out its military reach. They're saying, President Xi Jinping is saying in 2023, this year, potentially in the next 60 days, could make a move on Taiwan. Could the U.S. handle the Ukraine situation and the Taiwan situation at the same time? It'd probably be very difficult. We know that General Mark Milley, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, recently suggested that Ukraine should probably consider peace talks. Maybe because he understands, we should probably get that put away so we can address some of these other things that we have going on. But this Ukraine situation is not only taking up all our time, our focus, our effort, our energy, but our money, of course, in this massive omnibus bill. I think another $45 billion were being sent to Ukraine. I believe now $100 billion have been sent to Ukraine in the last 10 months, just by the U.S., not including the other countries that are sending Ukraine aid, compared to about $60 billion that Russia spent. So the U.S. has given Ukraine almost double what Russia spent, and that's just on the U.S. alone. But it's not just General Mark Milley, that's talking about this. We see other high-level people. We see Anthony Blinken. He's the Secretary of State. Anthony Blinken held a press conference just a couple days before Christmas. And, when you listen to what he said, you kind of parse it out. He says that it looks like the administration is not capable of handling multiple foreign policies at once. He said, quote, "When it comes to Russia's war against Ukraine, if we were still in Afghanistan, it would have, I think, made much more complicated the support that we've been able to give and that others have been able to give Ukraine to resist and push back against the Russian aggression." So he's saying, if we were still in Afghanistan, no way we would have been able to do all this work and effort with Ukraine. I mean, we've given so many weapons to Ukraine, so many long-range missiles that we are depleting our supply. You can't supply two countries the same. We don't even have enough to give them and keep what we need. And so that's exactly what he's saying. He's like, there's just no way we would be able to do that if we were still in Ukraine. And so this is interesting, something to definitely keep an eye on, and it's something that I believe will continue through the rest of the decade. Tensions will continue to rage. The world will continue to get more divided. And that's why I've said over and over, I believe that inflation, while it's come down a little bit, and yay, came down from 9 to 7%, all right. So now instead of $376 a month you're losing, now it's only $300. But I believe it's some of the lowest inflation we'll see for the decade because I believe this continues to get exaggerated and supply chains continue to struggle and free trade continues to fall. And we're re-onshoring a lot of manufacturing, near-shoring, bringing it closer to shore and lots of things. One of the things that we're re-onshoring is our chip manufacturing. Of course, the Biden administration put together this massive stimulus package to onshore microchip semiconductor manufacturing in the United States. And when he did that, we have Taiwan, which manufactures the most high-tech chips in the world. Our TSMC is now building their chip production plants here in the United States. Of course, China wants to move on Taiwan, partly to get those semiconductors, and so that's going to be an interesting thing. China is basically dead in the water. The Biden administration shut down, made it illegal for China to even have tier 2 and tier 3 microchips and semiconductors, which means they are basically knocked back almost to the dark ages. Not the dark ages, but certainly the 80s at least. And so that only agitates China even more. And this is something to keep an eye on. That's why I bring it to your attention. We are witnessing the decentralized revolution, and this is showing us what's happening. I'm seeing some bad news coming out regarding the economy. And like I said, I want to help you build, grow, and protect your wealth. And you need to understand what's going on, and a lot of talk about recession coming. And we're seeing lots of indicators about that. As a matter of fact, the experts, the economists, the experts, Wall Street, et cetera, which have been wrong almost every step of the way, by the way, but they are saying that things are not looking good. The data is not looking good. As a matter of fact, we can see, according to Bloomberg, forecasters surveyed by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia put the probability of a downturn in the next 4 quarters at more than 40%. That's the highest reading since at least 1975. Economists that were polled by Bloomberg saw the chance of a recession in 2023 at 65%. And Bloomberg's own models puts the recession risk at 100%. So between 100%, 65%, or 40%, but even at 40%, that's the highest reading since 1975. The chance of us having a recession are, I'm not going to say they're 100% like Bloomberg, but they're extremely high. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean if the economy goes into recession? Well, a couple things that you need to understand, and a couple things that you need to understand so you can protect yourself is that, there's the economy going into recession, and then there's your own personal wealth. And I want to make sure you're protected with your personal wealth. It says that, of course, consumers are the ones that keep the economy afloat, right? Consumers spend money into the economy. You go buy food, you go buy, gasoline, you get services, et cetera. Consumer spending makes up about 70% of the economy. So it's a super important data point. If you and I are broke, then we don't have money to spend that 70% into the economy. And of course, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, has been very upfront, very honest, telling all of us over and over and over that his goal is to crush demand, meaning he wants to make there's no more demand to buy products, meaning everybody's broke. So his goal is to crush demand by making you broke. Reverse wealth effect. Your retirement account gets cut in half, your home value gets cut in half, and you get paid less money. That's his goal. But what happens is that's makes you broke. There's less demand. You don't buy as much stuff, but the stuff you buy, consumer spending, makes up 70% of the economy. It's a big problem. Now we can see that we have, obviously consumer income, then we have savings, and hopefully you guys are saving some money. I can't stress enough how important it is to save money, especially in light of a situation that we're going into right now. I think that you should have as much living expenses saved away as you possibly can. 3 months should be like your minimum. You need 3 months of savings put away. Obviously, the more is better. But what we're seeing is the opposite of that. We're seeing savings go down. Excess savings, as labeled by the Federal Reserve, reached a high at the end of third quarter of 2021. So by September, October, November-ish, or August, September, October, somewhere right there, third quarter of 2021, it was a high point of $2.3 trillion in excess savings per the Federal Reserve. But by the end of September 2022, a year later, excess savings had shrunk to about $1.5 trillion, or just shrunk by about 40%. And even worse, they're projecting all of that excess savings to be depleted by middle of this year. So we went from having $2.3 trillion in wealth saved to zero by the summer of this year. And that's not good. Now, not only are they eating into their existing savings, they're also saving less of what they make. And at the same time, and this is the worst way to go, not only are they spending all their savings, but credit card debt levels are now approaching a high level mark of $1 trillion. So the Fed's crushing demand. They're doing a really good job. Everyone's going broke. Right now, people are still spending, but their savings are depleting, and their credit card debt is going up at the same time. It's not a good place to go. Now, on top of that, the unemployment rate is projected to shoot up by about 5%. And it's not hard to see that. We see layoffs are happening all over the place. The Federal Reserve, the central bank, doesn't forecast a decline in interest rates, meaning they're not expecting or planning to lower interest rates until 2024 at the earliest. So potentially at least another year before they even start to let off of this. I don't think they make it that far. My guess is they probably start lowering rates again. Third quarter of this year would be my guess, but they're not forecasting. They're saying they're not going to do it until 2024 at the earliest. And so what's going to happen? Well, we're going to continue to see people feeling broke, which means they're going to spend less money in the economy. 70% of the spending is from them. And when they spend less money in the economy, then businesses don't make as much money. And when businesses don't make as much money, what happens? They have to lay people off. So then more people get laid off, which means there's less money being spent in the economy, which means businesses do worse, which means more people get laid off, which means less money going to the economy, and you get the point. It's the doom loop. Right? And we can see it. I saw this week Amazon to lay off more than 17,000 employees. 17,000. Now, they had projected that they were going to lay off in November of last year. They had projected they would lay off about 10,000 people. But things got much worse and much faster than they had expected, and now they're laying off almost double what they had projected. Now, look, here's what happened, right? Amazon hired an insane amount of people in 2020 and 2021. The Federal Reserve printed trillions of dollars, shoved it in the economy. Everybody started buying everything, and Amazon had to keep up with the business. So they are building out their distribution centers, and they're hiring as many people as they can to drive, to deliver, to pack boxes, you name it, hiring all those people. And now things are slowing down, and they got to lay them all off. Think about the insanity of that for a minute. So the Federal Reserve, the central banks, create booms and busts. They ruin your life. I'm just going to say it straight up. What do I mean by that? Well, you're a business owner. You deliver services. You sell products. You're Amazon. You sell products, whatever it is. You build, whatever it is, whatever product or service you deliver. And the Federal Reserve decides to print trillions of dollars and shove it in the economy, and all of a sudden your business takes off, and you can't keep up with demand. You're building out distribution centers like Amazon, and you're hiring new people. And now these people got hired on, and because I needed so many people, we paid them a good wage. So we hired all these people on, we gave them a good wage. Oh, I got a job with Amazon. They're paying me all this money. Now I feel good about it. Maybe my wife quits her job. Maybe I go buy a new car. I take on debt. I'm thinking, great. I got this great job at Amazon. We can go to, you don't have to work anymore, and let's get this new car we always wanted. And then the Fed sucks the money out of the economy and everything crashes. And now, I just got laid off, but my wife quit her job and I took on all this debt. What do I do now? I had this business and I hired all these people and I bought all this capital equipment. I bought all these trucks. I bought all these machines, this equipment. And now what? Now I'm stuck with all the debt and I have no customers to service it. And it's all because the central bank, the Federal Reserve, prints a bunch of money and then sucks it all back out and shoves it back in and then sucks it back out. Now we're all sitting around waiting. When will they inject more money? When will they come and save us? And then will they suck it out again? It's a game of musical chairs. It's insanity. It's insanity. That's why I'm a proponent for Bitcoin. We need to remove money from the hands of the government. We need to separate money and state. Money is what we want it to be. It's our medium of exchange. It's how we communicate value. It's not made by the government. It's not made by the government. They shouldn't control it. They've proven that they are not capable of handling it. I don't typically like to get into the politics side. I like to look at politics, finance, and technology. And I really like to look where those three come together, the merge of those three, a Venn diagram, if you will. I don't want to talk about politics for politics' sake, but when it comes to the decentralized revolution and technology and money, then it's definitely something that we want to keep an eye on. And looking at what's going on in the political arena right now is interesting for one big reason, and the big reason why I'm really interested in what's going on in politics right now is the fight, the revolt that's going on in the GOP and the Republican Party right now, with basically Kevin McCarthy's bid to be the speaker. And they just can't get it done. The Republican Party is divided, and they don't want to nominate him. And he keeps going back to the bargaining table, if you will, giving more concessions and more concessions. Hey, you can remove me if you don't like me, and we'll do all these things. And yet there's, half the party is just stuck. They said, just no way, we're just not going to vote for you. And now, we have President Trump getting involved. You have the Democratic Party getting involved in this. And this is an embarrassment, and you need to get this done. And, we worked so hard to get the Republican majority there, and now you're squandering all these things, which is insane. We have to get this omnibus bill rushed through in 2 days before Christmas. It's 4,000 pages that we can't even read for $1.7 trillion in spending. We better get it done in the next 2 days. But we can't, we should be taking time on these things. To spend $1.7 trillion of our kids' future, that's not something that we should be rushing through in 12 or 24 hours right before Christmas. That's something that we should think about. We should have time. We should have open debate about. And probably who takes control of the speaker's position is also something that we should be willing to take our time with as well. But that's not what I want to really, that's not what stands out to me. What stands out to me is why. What's going on here? And it looks like the revolt is really being spread by these anti-McCarthy Republicans by very prominent conservatives. And so what we're seeing, similar to what's going on in the Democratic Party, is there's this divide where you have this extreme left, part that's, trying to push, trans rights in elementary schools and, just crazy extreme things over on one side. And then you have the other Democratic Party that are just liberals, right? And they just want more freedom and things like that. And you're really seeing this divide. And I think on the right, on the right or the Republican side, you're also seeing something similar where you have these rhinos, if you will, they like to call them, the Republicans, but they're really Democrats. And then you have these conservatives that are trying to get the party moving again. And that's really what this divide is about. And the reason why this is important is, as I talk about each and every week, the decentralized revolution. This utopian vision that we're all in this together, we're all alike, we're all robots, we're all going to think and do the exact same thing, we're all going to like the same thing, and we can all be ruled by one person with one ideology is wrong. It's flawed. It's failed. It will never work. It can't work. It's why we have individuals. It's why we need small government. It's why we should have freedom to do these things. And so this is what is highlighted to me is that these parties, they're breaking apart. The age of centralization, of centralizing this, it's over. And really you kind of have this these, like I said, these Republicans who are more like Democrats right now, and the Republican Party is trying to separate this. That's what it's looking like to me, and it just really, like I said, highlights the fact that that the world is changing. Like it's kicking these people out. It doesn't want them, no matter what. No matter if Trump gets behind them, no matter what, which is pretty interesting. Some other big headline that I saw this week that really again highlights this is I would say the extreme end of the Democratic Party. They believe that they have the right to do whatever they want. Who cares if there's laws that prevent it or not? So, for example, many mayors of cities, of many prominent, very extreme left-leaning mayors of cities, like New York, Chicago, Washington, Philadelphia, San Francisco, etc., say, we don't care what the laws of the land say. We don't care about the Constitution, even though I was sworn in on the Constitution, even though I was not only sworn on the Constitution, I swore to defend it from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Even though I said that, hand on my heart, I don't care what the laws say, and I'm not gonna defend them. And so one of those things I'm talking about is each of those cities I named, the mayors and governors in those states and cities have declared them to be sanctuary cities. So we have immigration. The United States allows people to immigrate into the United States. The United States was built on immigration. We're the great melting pot. Pretty much everybody in the United States came from another country at one point or another, right? We're a melting pot, and we need immigration. I am pro-immigration. We need immigration. We're not having enough babies to sustain our own civilization. We need to import more, or let more immigrate, and we do. I believe the United States, I don't have the exact data in front of me, but I believe the United States allows more immigration than almost any other nation out there, and we should continue to do that. But then there's illegal immigration, and that's where people come in illegally, and they don't come in through proper channels. And so these mayors and governors want to have what they call sanctuary cities, where we don't care what the laws of the land say, even though I agree to stand up for them or protect them. We're going to allow all these illegal people just to come live here. And we've been having an invasion. We'll call it an invasion. I believe over 5 million illegal immigrants came across the border last year. And it's a massive taxing on the system. Now, this is a bigger story. I should probably do a whole hour on that and why this is happening. And it's about, check out George Soros and his nonprofit, Open Borders, Open Societies. It's all about flooding the system with immigrants to crash the system. But, so these cities, and what I saw this week is Mayor Adams of New York City, who has a sanctuary city, said, enough. He said, quote, "There's no more room at the end," end quote. And he said that after learning that Colorado is the latest state that plans to ship these illegal aliens to New York. So these leaders are saying, look, close the border. But these sanctuary cities say, no, we don't want to close the border. But when all the illegal aliens come to that city, where it's a sanctuary city, they can't take it. And even Mayor Adams now is saying no. Adams said he was right when he said, quote, "No city should have to make a decision if they're going to provide for their citizens or if they're going to deal with an onslaught of migrants and asylum seekers." And that's right. We need to take care of the citizens, the people that have come here legally. And again, I'm pro-immigration, people that were born here, pro-immigration, et cetera. But you shouldn't have to choose. That's what Mayor Adams said. That's his quote here. The sanctuary mayors who acknowledge they're facing a crisis of Washington's making still can't bring themselves to call for the real solution, which is just immigration enforcement. We allow lots of people to come here legally. We should continue to do that. But we need to enforce the laws of the land. Now, if you want to change the laws of the land, go change the laws of the land. Otherwise, you should be enforcing the laws of the land. You swore in to protect them. I saw another story this week. Ron DeSantis showed he gave a speech, and he said, quote, "Florida is proof positive that we the people are not destined for failure." And he flagged the number one problem is the floundering federal establishment in D.C., which wields its authority through a sprawling, unaccountable, out-of-touch bureaucracy. And he's proved it. California had the most people leave the state than any other state in the nation. Florida had the most people go there out of any state in the nation. People are voting with their feet. That's how we vote, with our feet and with our money. And that's exactly what's happening in Florida. It's exactly what's happening with this immigration problem. People are voting not at the polls, which doesn't count, but with their feet and the money. And the world is decentralizing. That's what I got. You're listening to the Mark Moss Show, talking about the decentralized revolution. Thanks for listening.